This is the fatherhood experience. Turn it up, cause tonight you'll learn how to leave behind the average dad life. This the fatherhood experience. It's time to lead my family and become the father figure I deserve to be. The fatherhood experience.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Fatherhood Experience, where we help dads leave the average dad life behind and become the ultimate role model that their families deserve. We are your hosts, Jason Priest and Zach Smith, and we have an awesome interview for you today. Our guest is EksAyn Anderson, and before we dive in with him, I just want to give a huge shout out to all you guys who continue to follow along with our mission. We greatly appreciate you. The only thing that we ask is if you get value out of our show, just share it with another man in your life who you think could potentially help turn the corner in his life and become the ultimate version of himself. So today with us, like I said, we have EksAyn Anderson, and he's a husband, father, and speaker and author. He has been seen on Forbes, Speaker Magazine, TV, and featured in various blogs and podcasts. Through his powerful message and compelling story, EksAyn hopes to help people improve the relationships in their lives so that they may have a beautiful legacy. His new book, What I Want My Children to Know Before I Die, is to be released in May of 2022, and we are past that, so I'm assuming it's out now. EksAyn, welcome to the show, my man. Thank you for taking time out of your day today to add value to our audience.
Thanks, Jason. Appreciate it. Great honor to be on the show. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, for sure, man. So let's just dive right into it, dude. I know we all chatted a little bit before the show started. So just tell us a little bit about how you got here to be with us today, man. We want to know a little bit about your backstory. I know you have quite the story. So let's just dive right in.
Sure. Yeah, I'll dive right in. Well, let me just start back when I was young. When I was young, I used to like to draw trees. It's kind of one of the things I like to do. So I draw these trees, and they were really detailed. I draw all the little leaves, even the veins in the leaves, and they'd have like every branch, every detail.
Sure.
And I went to school later, and I saw how these other kids drew trees, and they just drew them kind of like the two lines with the little marshmallow poofy cloud on top. And when I went to school and I saw how these kids drew trees, I stopped drawing them the way I used to, and I started drawing them the way the other kids. And I found out later that my mom, when she saw this, she cried. Like she really cried. So anyway, fast forward several years, I'm at or a few years anyway. I was 8 years old. I'm at this Little League game. And by the way, there's a few different ways you can play Little League. You can be actually good and hit the ball. If you were like I was pathetic. I just hold the bat out. The ball hits it, it falls. It's called a bunt. Anyway, I had one bunt. As an 8-year-old kid, I had one bunt the entire season. So anyway, I'm not here to tell you how bad I was at Little League, but there was something that happened after this game. We went home from this Little League game, and my mom, she complained to my dad that she had a really bad headache. Okay. And that wasn't typical for my mom. She wasn't the kind who got migraines or anything. That just wasn't her thing. And it was so bad that eventually my dad became concerned, and he said, we're going to take mom to the hospital. And I remember standing there in the front room of our home, in Utah, and just gave my mom a hug. I just said, "Hey, I love you." And I remember they drove away. And I was a little bit anxious. I was 8 years old. This had never happened before. And my uncle and aunt happened to be visiting us at the time. And I went to my uncle and I said, "Is my mom going to die?" And he said, "No, she's not going to die. She probably just has a migraine." And I said, "Do you promise she's not going to die?" And he said, "Nah, just relax. She's going to be fine. So just go take it easy." And so I did. I decided, okay, I'll try to take it easy. I went downstairs, climbed up on my bunk bed, started reading this book about squirrels. Still remember the book. Anyway, I waited for my parents to get home, and they didn't get home. I was probably up till, 2 or 3 in the morning. The next morning, I was a little bit anxious still, climbed off my bed, went out to this, wanted to see my mom and dad. So there was kind of this long family room outside my bedroom. And I opened the door to my bedroom, and I look out, and I'm looking for my mom and dad. And on the other side of this room, I can see my dad, but something was different. My mom was not there. Instead, there was a friend and another friend and a neighbor and another neighbor and another. I mean, it seemed like half the neighborhood was in our home. And as I walked closer, I could see that my dad had been crying.
Mm.
And as I got even closer, my dad, he was really trying not to cry, but he wasn't doing very well. And he kind of gathered the kids together, and as he was kind of choking up, he said words I'll never forget. He said, "I think our mom is going to leave us."
Mm.
I put one or two, and I started putting it together, and I kind of went into this panic, and I was like, Dad, we got to do something. We got to do something. What can we do? My mom had suffered a cerebral hemorrhage, which means a blood vessel in her brain had burst, and she was now at the hospital, brain dead, being kept alive by a life support system. And 2 days later, I remember we were at the hospital. I walked in. I could see my mom on this hospital bed, and she had tubes coming out of her nose, and her chest was kind of rising and falling with this help of this machine. It just seemed so unnatural to me. And I was scared, like really scared. I mean, she didn't look like my mom on this with all these things coming out of her and tubes.
How many siblings did you have?
You ready for this? 7.
I am.
My mom was 32. Well, 7 total, including me. So my mom was 32. My youngest brother was 7 weeks old. He was still breastfeeding, actually.
Whoa.
And anyway, it came time to take to unplug my mom. There was nothing they could do. She was brain dead.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I remember when they did. She kind of crinkled up and turned bluish. And I wanted to give my mom a hug. I wanted to give her a kiss, but I was so scared. I just went and kissed the air, faked a kiss about 2 inches and walked out. Well, there was an anesthesiologist in the room, happened to be a friend of our family. And he said that after I left the room, that my mom on her own, interestingly, she went from kind of being crinkled up to where she kind of just spread out her arms like she was coming into a beautiful place, which I thought was interesting. But my mom died that day. And as an 8-year-old boy, I watched her die. But here's my question for you and for the listeners here. How do you think I draw trees now? Well, I'll tell you, I draw them the way my mom would want me to draw them, which is the way I see them, right? With the details. And I got to tell you right now, like me just sharing this story with you, sharing my heart with you guys, figuratively, in this very moment, I'm drawing trees the way I see them.
Love it.
And it puts me in an interesting spot because I know I could tell you other little things my mom did when I was way young, 6 years old, 7 years old, to have like a profound effect on me today. And they're affecting my kids who she never met, and they'll affect their kids. And so one of the missions that I'm on, Zach and Jason, is I really want parents to realize that the little tiny things they do, just knowing my mom wanted me to draw trees the way I see them is affected the book I wrote. It affects my kids. It affects some of the things I teach them. We have such a huge influence in our homes that will
100%.
Go down I'm not exaggerating on this, centuries. It will affect people that you and I never meet, because the choices you and I make in our homes, for good or for evil, is going to help or bless or curse people hundreds of years from now. Our kids, our children's children. It's going to go down. And the stuff we do at work, it's important. I'm not saying like be successful at work, do that. But the thing is like, let me just make a point here. When I ask people this, I'll ask people and say, hey, do you know what your great grandfather did for a living? So 2 greats. So your grandpa's grandpa, right? Grandfather's grandfather. Most people can't tell you. Most people say, I have no idea what he did. Every once in a while, I'll get somebody say, well, yeah, he was a farmer, he was a rancher or something. But you remember you had 8 of those. Okay. You had 8 great-great-grandfathers. Most people can't tell you. Well, here's the bad news and the good news for you and I. Our great-great-grandkids, they're not going to care what we did for work. I'm just not going to care. They're going to care about as much as we care. But the little choices we make are going to affect them profoundly. Let me just give you one example. One quick example, then I'll be quiet. Okay.
It's all good, dude.
Somebody hundreds of years ago, it was my my ancestry, decided to come to the United States of America. They came from Europe. I've got some Swedish and English and Scottish, but there was multiple of them that decided to come from Europe here. Well, that choice to come hundreds of years ago is now affecting me today. It affects my economic opportunities. It affects my education. It affects the language I speak. It affects, all kinds, even my religion. Everything is affected by these people who came, and made that choice. Now that's an obvious one because it's geographical, but a less obvious example is, were they mean? Were they patient? Were they drunk? Were they kind? Were they positive? Were they negative? I mean, those kinds of things are less visible because you can't say, okay, you're on a different continent, but they're just as real and they still flow through generations. And so what I'm trying to say is, like, I love what you're doing, Jason and Zach. Like, you're sitting here trying to help dads be better dads. Such a great thing. Keep doing it. Cause like this mission that you're on to help dads be better and more healthy and figure out their mental health and physical health and all kinds of things. This is exactly what's needed right now.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Sure.
One thing I noticed that you said, EksAyn or X, as you said, people call you, right? So
yeah.
I'll probably go back and forth between the two. Man. But you did say that when you were drawing trees, you started realizing that other kids were drawing them a different way. So you started drawing it their way. I guess you got to kind of conform to their ways or whatever. And your mom cried. Your mom cried, you said, right? Was it because you conformed? Was that what?
Yeah, I think my mom wanted me to be who I was, right? I mean, she wanted me to she said, hey, he draws trees beautifully, but now he's changed to draw them like someone else. And just knowing that, I mean, it wasn't, anything huge. It was just that knowing that my mom wanted me to be who I was. So that gives me strength now, even though I haven't given my hug. I haven't given my mom a hug in over 36 years since I May 5th, 2008. I mean, May 5th, 1986 was the last time I gave my mom a hug. But I can still feel her influence, even though she's been gone for decades. And the truth is, the kind of dad, Zach, the kind of dad, Jason, the kind of dad I am, the kind of dad, the listeners that they are, when they come to your podcast and try to be better dads, it's a big deal.
Oh, for sure, dude. For sure. Let me just say, Zach and I talk about this a lot. And, a big part of what we do inside the fatherhood is, it has a lot to do with family and finance beyond just the health and fitness piece. And so it's sure. Very much kids will do what you do before they do what you say. Right. So leading by example is one of our top priorities. And, it's kind of our punchline of what we do. Help dads become the ultimate role model in their family that their family deserve. One thing that you mentioned, though, is the impact that it has for centuries. All right. So I'll give you an example. I'll give you a prime example, especially for our audience in this show. We get a lot of guys who come to us who need to lose weight, right? Some of them are 50 pounds overweight. Some of them are 100 pounds overweight. And some of them, like the guy that we just brought on board about an hour ago before the show, is 150 pounds overweight, okay? You would not believe how often these guys tell us that their parents were overweight, their grandparents were overweight, their siblings were all overweight. These are generational trends that must be stopped at the father's level, right? Generally speaking, it's the dad that has to change the generational trends. And right now, what we're seeing is the biggest problem in our country right now are fatherless homes, right? I just dropped a post the other day about the percentage of people that are incarcerated, the percentage of people that rape, the percentage of people that end up growing up to be homeless, all coming from fatherless homes. All right. And so to your point, these are generational trends that must be started with the father. If you're going to break a trend, it's got to start with the leader of the pack, which is the father. All right. My friend, my close friend, who I put in that post, spent some time in prison. His father figure was out of his life pretty quickly. He has a stepdad who's an amazing man, still not his dad. He looked up to him. It's his stepdad. He respected him. It's not the same as your father, right? He tried to do what he could to help my friend along. It's my similar situation. By the way, I also lost my mom at 25, not at 8. And so the impact that had on me ripped my heart out, as you could well imagine. She was 49. Okay. Yeah. With me, I grew up in a single parent household. My dad is still in my life, but I didn't have a lot of guidance or structure. My mom was an alcoholic. We do have a lot of mental problems in our mental health problems in our family. And we do have a lot of alcoholism and drug abuse dating back in our family. I was a troubled teen. I grew up in a unstructured environment, got in a lot of trouble and did a lot of bad things. And now, because of those things, it is my ultimate responsibility to make sure that my sons, damn sure they won't get away with much, but I'm gonna be a little bit lenient so they can have fun in life. However, my sons will not follow that same path, or I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that doesn't happen. So I 100% agree with you that it is a century-long piece, and I'll just use my example as a profound example because it couldn't be, it's so true, 100% true, and so 100% resonate with your message. Sure.
Well, the reason why I asked about how, I brought up the point that his mom started crying with the conforming is because I don't think people realize how profound an effect something that seems very minor like that can be. Mm-hmm. People don't realize that. And the reason why I want to ask that is because I was going to segue it right into the book that you created, right? Because it's very interesting. What I want my children to know before I die, every parent wants to pass down their wisdom. And I am just very I'm looking forward to opening your mind and seeing what it is that you want to pass down to your children, because I feel like this is a very good interview, a very good podcast episode, because you're very aligned in what we do, and I just love interacting with other people who feel the same way, who want to leave the world a better place when they go, regardless of whether we're going to meet our great grandchildren or not. Right? It's not what it's all about. So I know I might be jumping the gun here, but I want to talk about the book. That's really what I want to know here. I want to know what made you want to write this book. Was it when your mom passed and you're just like, like what was it?
Super good question, Zach. Super great question. Well, let me tell you, just backing up just a little bit here, because this is actually in the book as well. Jason was talking about how, there's a big problem with fatherless homes.
Oh, okay? Yeah.
So you actually, just like Jason was saying, a lot of the guys, in fact, I think the vast majority of people you see in prison who are doing rapes, who are doing all kinds of violence and all kinds of things that are out of control, most of them are coming from fatherless homes because they didn't have someone there when they were young to say, hey, guys, we're going to treat people with respect.
Yeah, I think it's like 70-something% of homes that have a lot of like high crime rates are like those are the single family homes or single. I believe it was. I forgot what the exact number was, but yeah.
Exactly right. And go ahead.
I'll just take 30 seconds and I'll read the post because it's valuable for our listeners. All right. 90% of inmates are men, 75 of which grew up without a father. 63% of youth suicides come from fatherless homes, which means you're 5 times more likely to kill yourself if you're growing up without a father. 85% of children who grow up with behavioral disorders come from fatherless homes, which means we are 20 times more likely to have a behavioral disorder if we grew up without a father. 80% of all rapists come from fatherless homes, which means we are 14 times more likely to rape somebody if we grew up without a dad. 71% of all high school dropouts come from fatherless homes, which means we are 9 times more likely to drop out of school if we don't have a father at home. Those numbers are staggering. So proceed.
I love what you're saying here, because this mission that you're on, that I feel like I'm on, to help dads step up, is more important than we think. There was a wise man, I think his name was Neil Maxwell. He said this, and I'm probably misquoting him, but he said something to this effect. He said, if we don't fix marriages and families, including dads, everything else we do will be like straightening deck chairs on the Titanic. Now, I may have misquoted it here, but think about
something
that.
Along those lines. Yeah.
When you see in the news, hey, we need more police or less police, or we need more courts or less courts, or we need more social programs or less social programs, or we need this political party or that political party, all of that, the real root of the problem is not the party or the social program or more police or less police or whatever it is they're trying to sell. The real root of the problem is that there wasn't a dad 10, 20, 30 years ago who said, hey, son, Let's treat people with respect.
Uh-huh.
If you want to go to the root of the problems in our society, it starts exactly where you're talking about, at the headwaters in the home. And so trying to figure that out. So to your question, Zach, well, let me back up one more second. I want to answer your question. So Jason, one of the things that I love about what you said is you told us about the hard childhood that you had.
It's way deeper than that, but yeah, it's all over.
Somehow,
my childhood was not good. Right. Go ahead.
Somehow, though, this is what I love. I love it when I hear stories of people who transcend. Because what happens is your pain is now your superpower.
100%.
Like you are making a difference. You're trying your best to be a good dad and inspire other dads. And when you said it, now see, I'm tearing up. Okay. When you said it, I felt tingles go through me that here's a guy who let his pain transform into his superpower. Now, that's what I'm trying to do. Zach, to your question. Your question was, hey, why are you writing this book? And I'm going to tell you the reason I'm writing it is because I see this need for dads. We need them now, man. We more than ever before. You're starting to, the stuff you're seeing on the news that's getting worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
The problem happened 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago when the dad was absent. So we can go and pretend that somebody's political problem. We can go and pretend that somebody out there can fix it. But the real thing is we need to inspire and be on a mission to help dads to say, you know what, if I can step up and be a good dad, I'm going to be blessing generations from now. I'm going to be helping our country, our communities. And that's the real cure. It's not the latest, whatever they want to sell.
Our divorce rate is sky high and we've devalued family. The current generation is scared to get married because they're told that the woman, especially women right now, they're told to go be the superwoman, the boss lady. You can go do whatever you want. Go be a power force or be a powerhouse in the workforce, right? Fine and dandy, and I respect that, right? We're getting further and further away from what our nation was founded on, which is family, right? Like, how do you have a solid, healthy, productive society? It all revolves around family. When you strip that out of society, you see crime rates skyrocket. The statistics I just read you. I saw the other day that an 8-year-old pulled a gun on a police officer. Imagine that, you're 8-year-old. I have a 7-year-old. Okay. Imagine your 8-year-old pulling a gun on a police officer. I can guarantee you there's not ever been a dad in that family. And there's never been any kind of father figure in that family. There's been no structure in that family. And that kid is headed for disaster, either death or prison. It's very sad. Those stories are starting to pop up more and more and more. And you're spot on. It has everything to do with we don't have healthy father figures in the picture anymore. And it's a trend we must change.
I love what you're saying, X, because you're right. Most people are out here trying to point blame. Most people are out here trying to say, we need to produce more programs. We need to produce more prisons. We need to produce more this, more that. When really that's just putting a Band-Aid on the symptom, but
it's
not
like healing
the root cause. And that's something that Jason and I are very, very, very big on, dude. Let's nip it at the bud. Like, I love where your head's at. You're thinking proactively, not reactively. We're not trying to just fix things, right? Something that I like to say that we throw out to our guys and tell them why change is so hard is because by the time you're age 35, 95% of who you are, your being, your belief system, your morals, everything is pretty much solidified. You have a small window of opportunity. Now, I'm not trying to put any limiting belief on anybody, right? Because anybody and everybody can change, but it becomes significantly harder after a particular age, which is why it can be very hard to change yourself because you think nothing's wrong with you by the time you're old and wise, right? Quote,
you're set in your ways, right? It's that old
you're set in your ways, right? Yeah. But I love that, man, because we can't fix a society that is kind of, I guess I will put in quotes, broken, because it's not as good. It's not as good as it should be. But guess what? We're going to have a little bit of rough waters before things get good. But in order for things to get good sooner than later, we have to fix it at the root, which is the children, the next generation. But in order to help them, we have to help ourselves. We have to stop the way that we think. That's right. Flip that and change it and start putting blame on ourselves and understanding that my kids the way they are because of the way that I am too. We're very big on taking ownership for your responsibilities or your actions, your lack of, whatever it may be. So a lot of people out there will try to put a Band-Aid over the symptom when really the root cause, it's them.
100%.
them. It's us.
That's right. And that's the bad news, but it's also the good news, because
Yes.
if it is you, let's say that you're the problem.
Mhm.
It means you can also become the solution.
You
Yes.
100%
So when you take ownership and say, you know what, let me give you one example in my own life, just if I may briefly.
Go for it.
It's natural, I think, for a lot of men and fathers to kind of say to have you ever seen a dad, the kid walks in, says, you know what, I can't believe you stayed up till 3:00 in the morning last night and you didn't make your bed. You got a C- on your test. And they start naming all the things that the kid did wrong. Well, I actually came across this book that it was not my book, but it's a book called The Power of Positive Parenting by Glenn Latham. I got it right here. And it changed the way I think. And basically he says this, he says, if you can start thinking of behaviors like seeds. So like imagine a little seed, it's a behavior. And if I had a pitcher of water in my hand, I could show you, you water the behaviors that you want to see grow with attention. In other words, I'll tell you one of the stories that was in this book that I think if we as dads could get it down, it's just a little tiny thing. But there was a kid who got sent to the principal's office all the time. He was always in trouble. And they brought this school counselor in to just observe and see what's happening. And the school counselor sat in the back and noticed that this kid was doing a lot of things right, like participating, doing what he needed to do, but getting zero attention, nothing. But as soon as the kid would do something wrong, the teacher would go, oh, there you go, write his name on the board. Oh, you did it again. Check mark, check mark, check mark. Eventually, he's getting marched down to the principal's office. And of course, he's getting attention, not only from the teacher, but from the kids. And then he gets down to the principal's office, and the lady there at the desk is like, oh, I knew you'd be here again. She puts him near the window, and there's kids waving to him at lunch. So he's getting a lot of attention for being there at lunch. And the counselor said, you know what? This is completely predictable. Like, he's getting a lot of attention for doing what's right and zero attention for doing what's wrong. I mean, zero attention for doing what's right and a lot of attention for doing what's wrong. And that's what's happening. And one of the things that he says in this book is he says, and I tried it on my own kids and I believe it works. Okay. I mean, they say the best way to get rid of problem behavior is to reinforce the good behavior. In other words, pay attention. And so I'll give you one example. My daughter, years ago, by the way, she's a great girl, but she got up when she was younger and she said, hey, Dad, I made my bed. I made my lunch. I'm ready for school. Surprise. I mean, she was trying to surprise me. Now, I could have just discounted it, but just before that, I'd kind of learned about this positive reinforcement thing. And I went to my wife and I said, hey, look, this is a behavior. It's a seed I want to see grow. Let's give it a lot of attention. Let's water it with attention. And so I went out there and said, hey, your bed looks great. Can't believe your bed. You made your bed. You made your lunch. Thanks for the surprise. This is awesome. Well, interesting thing. She did it. Guess what happened? She did it again. My wife kind of, she laid it on thick too. Really, if we as dads can start to key in, and they're just like the kid who was getting in trouble all the time, you're still doing a lot of stuff right. If we can start to key in and say, hey, son, you did a great job. I love that. If they can start feeling that we can see the good in them, it doesn't mean we have to ignore bad behavior. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying, if you want to shape human behavior, this piece about catching people doing something right. And when you can do it, it's those little things that you think don't matter that really matter. I mean, the daily little things. Do I exercise or not? Do I eat right or not? Do I catch my kids 5 times a day just doing something right? And that was something that didn't come naturally to me. I still have to work on it. I mean, I blow it all the time, but I'm trying to get to a point where I can be like, I'm going to see the good in people, especially my kids, because it's going to help shape their behavior when they are respectful. So
I love that. And I'll just be honest with you, dude. We live in a society that loves to point out the bad. And so as men, especially for myself, for example, I come from a checkered past, right? I always had the bad pointed out because I was usually in trouble, doing bad shit. And the reality is our minds naturally gravitate toward negativity, because, curiosity killed the cat, right? Your negativity is around every corner, and it's almost like our mind seeks it out, right? You go on social media, you watch any news, which I do not, but anywhere you go, it's negative stuff. And so it's like we're programmed to seek out the negativity. And I love that. And to be honest with you, dude, what you just said is something that I need to work on in my own life, because my 2-year-old is innocent, dude. He's 2. He's way turns 2 in like a week, right? Innocent. It's very hard for me not to hold him on a higher pedestal than my 7-year-old, because my 7-year-old does get in trouble. He does bad shit because he's 7, right? That's what 7-year-olds do. They're going to do stuff that you don't agree with. And so for me, the message that you just said will help me. It opens up my eyes to try to see more of the positive, because the negative is going to happen, and that's just the reality. And I'm generally speaking a little bit, I would consider myself a bit of a hard ass dad at times, because I want to make sure that my son has the best path at becoming the best person possible. Zach and I have talked about this a lot. I don't care if you're the janitor for a school. You better go to work. You better respect women. You better respect everybody. You better not see color, and you better show up to work being the best damn janitor that you can every day. Right? That's,
by the way, that's good. I
right?
love how you do that.
That's
being
how
tough
we do it.
on,
hell yeah.
Being tough on your kids. You can be tough and still be positive. You don't have to be tough and negative. You can still say, hey, we're going to be respectful. We're going to show up. We're going to do. I love how you said that, and still say, I'm going to catch my kids doing stuff right, and still be a tough dad.
Yeah.
And I don't think it has to be either or. Right?
No, but I love that you said that, because now that you put that nugget into my mind, I'm generally like, when I interview guys, we get some women on here too, but when I interview guests, generally speaking, I'm looking for things to add value to the audience. And that what you just said just put a positive nugget in my own mind that I'm going to focus more on, because my 2-year-old, again, it's very hard not to hold him over. He's a sweet little 2-year-old, giggly all the time. It's 2-year-old's innocent, right? You change their diaper, they move along, put them to bed, yada yada. But man, my 7-year-old challenges me some, and I think trying to see the positive and catch him doing something positive is a great thing, and I'm sure our audience will get a lot of value out of that as well.
Dude, I like that, man, because the question that while you guys are talking, obviously just listening on the side here, it's like, are we naturally negative people, or have we just been conditioned to feel and think that way, right? Because as a species, are we risk averse? Yes. Through all the, caveman days and all that stuff like that, you obviously don't want to jump in front of saber-tooth tiger, right? We're risk averse people, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we're negative people. Mm-hmm. So going back to fixing the root cause of everything, what if we were able to recondition an entire generation to think positively, to look for the silver lining,
positive,
to find the good within the bad? How much greater would our world be if we were able to do that? Because we live in a world, like you said, Jason, where it's so easy to focus on the negative because we've been conditioned to do so. Mm-hmm. We're the kind of people that if we have a 99% awesome, amazing, perfect day, but 1% of something goes wrong, people are conditioned to be like, wow, my day's ruined. I can't believe that happened. Why me? Stuff always happens to me. Because like you said, X, whatever we focus on, whatever we plant or we water, it sprouts. So if we focus on that 1% negative, that's what happens. So what would, imagine the world that we could live in if we could actually fix people's minds, and not that they're broken or anything, but you know what I mean? Like, to look for the silver lining, how amazing would our world be?
I love what you're saying there, Zach. I really do. Exactly what you're saying. And back to the example I was talking about earlier, what you're talking about here too, which is when the kid comes in and the dad goes, hey, I can't believe you stayed up till 3:00 in the morning and you didn't make your bed and you're staying up too late or whatever. And what that dad's trying to do is get the behavior to stop. But what he's actually doing is he's watering the weeds. He's saying, I'm going to give you attention for what you did wrong. And whether he likes it or not, he's actually making it more likely that behavior will come again. So back to my daughter's example, it would be way, way less effective for me to wait for my daughter to sleep in, not make her bed, not make her lunch, and then storm in her room and say, how many times do I have to tell you to get up? And you didn't make your bed again. And you didn't make your lunch. Instead of keying in, like really noticing, wait, she's trying to do something good. And then being like, hey, really, really appreciate you making your lunch. That was awesome. Mm-hmm. Thanks for making your bed. It looks great. Thanks for getting dressed without even having been asked. That's amazing. That's great. And it's not just me saying that's a good idea, like scientifically proven, and I'll say it slow, the most effective way to shape human behavior is to reinforce the positive behavior. Mm-hmm. So even in your marriage, let's just say someone's leaving the socks out and it drives you nuts. Sometimes that's a women thing, but we'll just say, or somebody's not putting the toilet up or down. Really, the best way to change that, that's a man thing. That's a man thing. The best way to shape human behavior is to ignore the weeds. Like, just let them wither, let them dry out and die, and catch your spouse, your children, your business associates, everybody doing something right. And it actually becomes fun. Let me give you an example. I went to this oil change place, and these guys come up and they wash my windows and they vacuum my floor and they change my oil really fast. And I'm like, wait a second. I like the fact they did this fast. Let's reinforce it. And when they got done with it, their boss, I said, get your boss over here. And they're like, what? And I said, just get your boss over here. They said, okay. So the boss comes over and I said, you know what? These two guys did a great job. When you get promoted, drag them into your spot, give them a raise and a promotion. And the guys were kind of like, did that guy just tell me to give me a raise and promotion? Well, I didn't. I was just doing it because you want to be someone who's practicing positive, even outside your home, right? Anyway, I didn't think anything else about it, but I came back to this oil change place. They remembered my name and they're like, give that guy half off, right? So it was, nice. You got rewarded for doing.
Yep.
It really is.
Forward, right?
Yeah, and you could have stabbed it. Like, the other way to do it would be to wait till they change the oil slow and be like, these guys, how many times you guys are the worst. I'm going to put a bad review on Google or whatever. No. Catch people doing something right. Practice it at work. Practice it with your kids. Practice it with your wife, your spouse. I mean, and just realize that because it's real. It's the most powerful way to shape human behavior. If we can get this as dads, gosh, we'll be so much more effective. And that's where we want to be, right?
I love it. And to be honest with you, it's really the only way moving forward. If you want to instill those type of behaviors in your children, the reality is you've got to rewire your mind. You got to reprogram your mind, because going back to what we just talked about a few minutes ago, we're drawn toward negativity. And as dads, it's very easy to find the negative stuff. Your kids are going to do bad shit, right? Your kids are going to do something they're not supposed to be doing. So that's a standard. Just accept that you can still, you still address that situation. You're not now giving them a free pass on the bad stuff, hoping that they do more good. It's you recognizing the good and instilling those positive thoughts and emotions in their mind so that they're then practicing that themselves. And so for me, I can already tell where I'm going to start looking for areas in my life, because if you're doing it at home, you got to start at home, right? But the more that you do it at home, the more you can start to do it in the real world. The more you can, the more when you go to, Kroger, I don't know what grocery store you guys got in Utah, but say I go to Kroger and the person bagging my groceries, whips it all into shape, doesn't break my eggs, doesn't slam them in there, does a great job. Hey man, you did a great job bagging my groceries today. I know it's a little thing, but thank you for taking care of my stuff, right? It's those little things that go a tremendous way towards helping improve somebody's mindset and helping somebody's day get a little bit better. I love it. I love
that stuff, man. I love that stuff, man. I'm going to jump right into it now, man, because I want to know, because this is a good conversation. X, let me ask you this, man. Go into your book. What do you want your children to know before you die?
You don't have to give us the whole book, because I'm sure that people are going to want to read
it. Or you can. No, but
there's a lot. There's a lot. I'll tell you one more story, because this is what kind of along the same lines, and then we'll maybe one or two here real quick. I met this guy named Daniel, and Daniel was not too long ago, a while ago actually, he was accepted to Stanford's MBA program. Okay, and I said Stanford's MBA, which is the Masters of Business. One time I said this and somebody thought I said NBA, which is the National Basketball Association. I'm not talking about I'm talking about the NBA.
I just heard when you said that, I heard NBA as well. And I was like, Stanford MBA. Nope. It's
Masters
One can
of Business.
Assume. Yeah.
So anyway, and it's kind of a big deal. I actually went through and I looked up how much people make as a Stanford MBA 5 years after they graduate. And they actually make, when I looked it up, and this was a while ago, they made about $285,000 a year. And the same time I looked this up, the average household income in America was about $55,000. So basically they'd make about $230,000 more a year because they went to Stanford, probably. And if they did that for, say, 30 years, that's $6.9 million more in their career than maybe an average American. And it's probably even more than that, because that's just simple math. It's probably more like 20 or 30 million, because it's not taking into account cost of living and increases and all this stuff. Sure. Well, I'm not trying to make this about money, but I want to just point out, there was a point. I went up to Daniel later and I said, "Hey, Daniel, what did you do to get accepted to Stanford? I'm curious. What did you do?" And his answer really surprised me. His answer, this is what he said. He said, "My dad taught me that if I didn't understand something, I had to go look it up." I'm sitting there thinking, wait, $6.9 million, look stuff up in the dictionary. Tell me more. And he goes, "Well, I mean, if I didn't understand a word, my dad would say, 'Hey, go look it up in the dictionary.'" And so that's basically most of what I was doing, is I'd hit a word that I didn't understand in my assignment or my book or whatever, and I have to go look it up. And I'm still thinking to myself, wait, $6.9 million, look stuff up in the dictionary, tell me more. And he said this, he said, "I'd be reading this word, I wouldn't understand it. I'd take a minute or two to look it up, and then I'd come back. And of course, I'd understand the word, but the real magic happened later, because I'd hear this word in on the radio or on TV or in conversation. And now I knew what they were talking about." And I said, "Okay, that's interesting." But I'm still thinking $6.9 million, look stuff up. And I said, "Daniel, was there anything else you did?" And I thought he might say, "Well, yeah, I took this really expensive crash course, or I went to this private school, or I went to something." This is what he said. I said, "Daniel, was there anything else you did?" And he looked at me kind of funny and he went, "Well, I mean, sometimes I had to look stuff up in the encyclopedia." That was it. I thought it for years. I thought about this. And I actually went back to Daniel like a few years later. And I said, "Hey, Daniel, I want to know, how much time were you spending a day looking stuff up in the dictionary or the encyclopedia? How much time?" And he goes, "It wasn't that much, 5-10 minutes, maybe 15. I said, "What was it on a really bad day?" And he said, "Maybe a half an hour." I said, "Okay." I went home and I did some math. And what I did is I said, let's just say he was spending, let's take the worst case scenario. He was spending a half an hour every single day, all through kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, all the way through middle school or junior high, all the way through high school and the first 4 years of college. And I added up all that time and I divided it into $6.9 million. Here's my question. How much money do you think he was making per hour as, say, a third grader looking stuff up in the dictionary? And this is where question. Yeah. here's the answer. It was at least $2,200 an hour. $2,200 an hour. Does anybody here have kids who are making $2,200 an hour looking stuff from the dictionary? They might be. Now he didn't get paid right away. He gets paid.
Maybe that
later.
Ryan kid on YouTube.
But the reason I tell you the story is because you may not think that your little decisions are important. But I'm here to tell you, your little decisions are everything.
Compounding interest.
It's everything. So you may not think, when I say, "Hey, go catch your kids doing something right," or "Go catch the grocer," like you're saying, bagging your groceries, you may not think that's a big deal, but it could save a troubled teen from suicide.
Oh, 100%.
It could save your marriage. The little things are the big things. So one of the things I want my kids to know, just one, you asked, and I've got probably 50 in the book, but one of the things I want them to know is, you know what, your little tiny daily things, like what you guys off, with finances. Am I going to save a little? Am I going to work out? Am I going to avoid the sugar and do something else? Am I going to keep my body fit so I have more energy to give and serve others? All of those little things are super, super important. One last thing I want to tell you. There was a guy, Stephen Covey is one of the guys who he wrote the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, made a huge influence on my life. But he tells this story. He's at this conference. This is something else, Zach. I'm answering your question, Zach, here. He was at this conference and somebody comes up to him afterwards and says, "I don't love my wife anymore." And that surprised him. And he looked at the guy and he said, "Well, then love her." And I'm probably not telling the story exactly right, but it's pretty close. And the guy looked at him and said, "I don't think you heard me. I've fallen out of love with my wife. She's fallen out of love with me. We don't love each other. We have 3 kids. We're probably heading for a divorce." And Stephen Covey looked at the guy and said, "If you're not feeling it, that would be a good reason to love her." And the guy goes, "How do you love someone you don't love?" And Stephen Covey looked at the guy and said, "My friend, love, you're acting like love is a feeling. Love isn't a feeling. Love is a verb. It's an action word. But here's the thing. If you do the verb, the feeling will follow. You literally can lead your feelings by acting. And you guys know this.
100%.
I mean,
That's what we teach.
if you want to feel like exercising, you don't just sit there on the couch and wait for the feeling to kind of waft by. You have to get out there and exercise for maybe 2 or 3 weeks before you feel like it. And then all of a sudden you start getting these endorphins and they start coming to you. You can lead your feelings, and you can do it in your marriage. You can do it with your children. You can say, you know what, I'm not feeling love for my wife. I'm afraid we're going to get a divorce. Well, what's the key? Dude, go give her a massage, go rub her feet, go do the dishes, give her a break from the kids, go send her on do something to just love
As
her.
men, we know what we need to do, right?
Yeah, we know what we need to do. And do it when you don't feel like it, and watch your actual love for your wife increase. And you can save
simply by your own actions, right? And I guarantee you, if you're putting in those small, I don't know if you've ever read the book called the Slight Edge, but the Slight Edge this is the foundational principle of it. It's like
I haven't read it, but I will. Your suggestion, I'll read it.
It's a good book. It's an easy read, and man, it's powerful. It's easy to do and it's easy not to do. Like you said with the exercise. Like for us, what we teach is, it's a set of non-negotiable priorities that you wake up every day. I don't love to go to the gym, but I know that I'm going to be a better person when I'm done. I don't love to slam water all day and pee all day, but you know what? I know I'm a healthier guy because of it. I don't love everything about the lifestyle that I live, but I know that I love the results, right? It's the emotions that follow. It's the feeling that follows after. So many people get caught up in the hard part of, when it comes to physical fitness. It's like, your example is spot on, and it is what we teach. It's like, dude, in the beginning, you're not going to like it. It's going to suck. You got to grit your teeth and just go get the shit done, man. You're not going to love, sweating and being, and working hard if you're not used to doing that. But you know what? In a couple of weeks, like you mentioned, your pants are going to start to fit a little bit better. Your shirt's going to feel a little bit better. You're going to see some changes in the mirror. Other people are going to notice that your energy level and your mood and the way that you're looking is a little bit better. You don't think you want to keep going after that? It's like we get so hung up on taking that next step. The reality of life is you either get comfortable with being uncomfortable, or you're going to remain stagnant and you're not going to grow as a person. And that is not who we are about.
That's the problem with people, because we speak to many guys, right? I'm sure we all do. And a lot of the reason, and I bet you even X, like when you talk to people, how come you can do this? How are you able to do that? You're so gifted. You're so naturally talented. You're so naturally motivated is the word that I was going to get to. Most people think that motivation is what is the difference between you and I, him and her, us and they, and like all that stuff. When really it's not. Yeah. It's just an understanding that if you want something to happen, you have to make something happen, is really what it is. Most people who are like, I don't want to do it. I can't do it because I lack motivation. I'm like, dude, motivation is such a fleeting feeling that before you're even able to do anything significant, that feeling's gone. And then you stop. So, I love the whole, because I have the book too, man. Like I literally have the book right here inside my drawer, the 7 habits of highly effective people, man. It's like, dude, you don't love her anymore, then love her, dude. You got to do it. You got to put in the work. You got to take the actions first before the feeling follows. You're not going to do anything point, Zach, by, just feeling a certain way.
If you don't love her, then go love her. Here's the thing is, for me, like if I'm going to get a divorce, I don't want that hanging on my end. I don't want that weight on my shoulders. If we're getting a divorce, it's because she didn't put in the work. I don't want to get a divorce knowing that I could have done more. Right? I don't want to get a divorce knowing that I didn't put in the work, because that's a feeling of guilt and I don't want to live with it. I don't want to take guilt is the worst. Right. And so for me, it's a lot easier. If you don't love her, go love her. Go start doing the things you need to do. So I love it. This is a great interview. I know we're getting short on time, X. I want to give you the opportunity to tell our audience where they can learn more about you, any websites, any social media, your book, plug everything, dude. Because I know that our audience is going to love this interview. They're going to love the fact that we all just had a jam session on this about being a better dad, man. So where can we find out more about you?
Love it. Well, I've got this wild name, right? It's you say it EksAyn and you spell it EksAyn. If you can remember how to spell that, you'll find it. I have no competition, right? Really. I mean, well, if you meet someone else, they're in my family, but if you spell that, it's actually EksAyn.com, which is EksAyn.com. You can find my book in some bookstores, in Amazon. I really just believe that, one of the things my mom said, and it sounds a little bit over the top, but it's true. She said, no matter the question, love is the answer. And I thought about that. At first, it sounds a little oversimplistic, but really just caring about people, kind of like Stephen Covey was saying. And the question is, well, how do you love people you don't love?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we just talked about it, right? You just choose. Like, you could choose to actually love a kid who's misbehaving. You could choose to love your spouse even when you're not really feeling it. You can even choose to love the bagger at the grocery store, like you were talking about, just by saying, hey, you know what? Great job. Thanks. You're doing a great job. Make somebody's day by just choosing to love them is really what it is.
I love that.
You guys are on a great, I'm so glad good guys like you are doing this, man. So great to be like surrounded by guys like you.
We appreciate you, man.
It's
I really do. In our society.
Really appreciate you.
Likewise.
So I want to shout out to you guys. I hope your podcast goes off the charts. You deserve it too. And I hope dads everywhere are benefited and blessed because they listen to your stuff.
We appreciate you, man. We appreciate you taking time out of your day to add the value that you did today to our audience. This is a great interview. I'm telling you that a lot of guys are going to benefit from this. There's a lot of golden nuggets in this. We'll have to do it again sometime.
Yeah, I was gonna say we definitely got to have you back, man. I wish we could continue going, to be completely honest with you, man. But it'll end up being a Joe Rogan episode because I'm sure we could talk about the things that we have all up in our mind for hours, right? Yeah. So we definitely have to run this back. We got 50
more things I'm sure we could bounce this off. Let's do it. Let's do it again.
Yeah, we'll get one on the books for 2023, man. Let's do it. We'll wait a little bit. Let these guys soak this up. Maybe they'll get a hold of your book. And then we'll put one on the calendar in 2023 for sure, man. Thank you again for coming on and taking the time for us today.
Thank you, guys.